What's going on, guys? JPS back for another video, and today we have a really interesting one in my opinion. This one is titled What It Means to Be British with Stephen Fry. And first of all, that's a very thought-provoking title. I'm already, when I first saw this video, I knew I was going to react to it. And it's just, a lot of things come to mind when I think what it means to be British. And I'm very, very ready to hear what Stephen Fry has to say about that as well, along with sharing my own thoughts, which I will do throughout the video. But let's get right into this, guys. Consider joining the Patreon, first link in description. I know I always say that, but honestly, guys, I've been putting a lot of work into Patreon over the years, and I feel like it is a great community and great place to watch me react to British TV shows and movies, which I cannot do on YouTube. All of that is copyrighted material. It immediately gets blocked. So if you'd like to support me further, I would really appreciate it. No worries if you can't. I appreciate you for watching this video. Let's get right into this and see what Stephen Fry has to say about what it means to be British.
The one thing that strikes me most about you as we sit across from each other is I think you're incredibly, and given your family background, this might sound strange, but you're incredibly British in the most amazing way. And I think you'd be recognized around the world as actually being incredibly British. So the question I want to ask you is, what does it mean to be British?
It's an excellent question. And, one's mind travels backwards and forwards over various, the famous George Orwell, Vicar on the bicycle and the warm beer and the cricket. And there's an element of that. And I think I'll start off with, as you say, given my family background, I think growing up in a very traditional English way in a country house, sent away to school with other English boys, but coming from a Jewish family, at least half Jewish, and realizing quite early on that I was gay in a world in which, I was interested enough in literature and reading around it to know that meant prison and exile and disgrace and stigma and shame. It's almost as if I overdid it. I mean, I look at myself psychologically. I'm a member of the Garrick Club. I'm actually wearing his tie at the moment. The MCC, the Beefsteak, the Athenaeum, the Savile Club. It's unbelievable. The Oxford and Cambridge Club, the Arts Club, the Chelsea Arts Club as well.
He's just showing off.
I know.
You are the liberal elite.
No, it's more than showing off. It's actually revealing something deeply tragic. This absolute desperate need to be accepted and to feel that the doors of society are open to me. Of course they're open to me. I mean, I don't know why I keep needing, but for some reason I have this this sense. I mean, I wrote about it in an autobiography, and the way I put it was that, like a lot of adolescents, but unfortunately as an adult, I've still taken it. I was pulled apart by this tension, these contradictory impulses. One was to stand alone, to be, the Ibsen hero, he stands strongest who stands most alone, that thing of being the individual, different, apart, but at the same time yearning to belong. So to be apart from and to be a part of were my two things that pulled me. So I wanted to look down on people who were there, they're playing their rugby and doing their thinking ordinary thoughts, being conventional, imagining a life with mortgages and owning garden hoses and lawnmowers. and I wanted to be apart from that. But another element of me just so wanted to be embraced by the world and to belong. And I think,
Wow. First of all, he's being very open and vulnerable at the start of this video, I feel like, talking about his upbringing. Obviously, Stephen Fry is gay, which doesn't make anything easier. And everyone, I think, goes through that dilemma of wanting to be an individual, wanting to be different. You don't want to be a robot or just another ant in the army or whatever it is. But at the same time, no human can really be that person. I guess, yes, but you need to have that connection. And it can be difficult, especially when you are different, to find a community where you feel accepted or to, be a part of something And I can definitely relate to that type of dilemma. I feel like everyone can relate to that to some degree, but I like what he's saying at the start of this. But let's get into what it means to be British. Let's see.
That is a strangely English thing, or at least a certain kind of Britain has that, this need to stand apart. And I don't belong to any of that nonsense. I don't believe in this, and I'm different. And to say, but also to join. But what it is to be British, I mean, I grew up believing that it was fair play. Mm-hmm. And I think that is still a part of, British and the Anglo-Saxon tradition, because the Australians call it a fair shake. Mm-hmm. You've got to have a fair shake, decent, equity in that sense, not social justice warrior equity, but just, something's not fair. And that's as a child, we all know children scream when things aren't fair, and we are enraged by injustice, and we should be. We shouldn't ever lose that, I'm sure. And I think a certain, this is impossible to say, because it sounds the opposite, but a certain modesty is important, a certain sense that one isn't quite good enough and that one should be better is an important part of being British. And disliking showing off and braggatism and general sort of braggadocio, if you like. And that's why we find Trump so incomprehensible. I mean, a lot of what he says or what he stands for, we can completely understand why people vote for him. But what, just at a simple personal human level, the idea that a British person could ever vote for someone who was so full of themselves, it's just so, oh my God, you cannot talk like that. You heard him saying he's so good at this and he's the best at that. No one would be acceptable in British society. In a pub,
I believe this is also touching on like the tall poppy syndrome, which I've learned about. It's like, if someone stands out, whether they're famous or whatever the case is, I think Brits have the tendency to cut them down, and I think that's also like a European thing in general, and definitely Australian as well. But I can definitely see that. Like in the United States, that arrogance is rewarded. People like to see someone who's full of themselves, which is it is very weird, I have to say. That's just how like things are though. Like I don't know how that's the case. I don't get it, guys. Trust me. But it's just the world we live in. Like it's nothing. Just have to like deal with it, I guess.
Someone said, "I'm the best that ever." You go. Saying he's so good at this and he's the best at that. No one would be acceptable in British society. In a pub, if someone said, "I'm the best that ever," you go. Excuse me. In the same way that we couldn't have a prime minister who said, "Let us pray," or "God will," Tony Blair is probably the most religious prime minister we've had for a while, but we just would not accept that. There's a fantastic moment here. Here's what it is to be British. Kipling, great writer, no accident, Nobel Prize winner, obviously unfortunately associated with empire and the Raj in ways that have made him a little bit unacceptable to some people. But if you read him, you think this is a truly great writer. And T.S. Eliot and many others were, built up his reputation when it had fallen down a bit. There's a scene in one of his novels, a kind of almost comic novel of school days called Storky and Co. Hugely popular book, and it was kind of based on his own childhood. He represents himself as a character called Beetle, who's very short-sighted because Kipling was almost blind. And there's a moment when a politician comes to the school, and we know that what happens to Storky and his friends, they're wonderfully naughty children. They're very disrespectful. They're absolute renegades as children, Storky and Co. at their school. But we know that they then join the army, and two of them are killed, and that they're kind of soldiers, and that they probably are patriotic. They believe in their country, and therefore, I suppose, empire. Anyway, a politician comes and speaks to them at speech day, as they do at these schools. And he points to the flag and says, "The flag, my boys." The flag. And Storky and his friends start to hiss. They hiss him down. They cannot bear that someone should talk in that way, sentimental way about country. It's a private thing. You may have feelings about your country. You may have pride in something, but for someone to talk about it is just bad taste. And that sense of English bad taste, that you don't parade such feelings like patriotism. And to this day, I think if a politician went on about the glory of the country, like when Michael Patillo, in a very short period when he was Defence Secretary, did that, wrapped himself in the flag, and to people of right and left, it was just distasteful. And I think that is a problem for the British, because whatever the British values may be, they are under threat, as they are Western values generally are under threat, deeply under threat. And to defend them means to speak in a very un-British way. And that makes us uncomfortable. In America, they don't have that problem. They talk about freedom and America and the flag and that.
Right. So let me ask a question here, though. Obviously, it's not acceptable to just be openly patriotic, and that's what he's talking about here, which I understand, especially in Britain. Like, it makes sense. Opposite here in the United States. But in Britain, I feel like it's very acceptable to moan about your country. So it's the opposite. You're not, it's always like shooting yourself down kind of thing, which that's a very humble characteristic of a lot of British people. But at the same time, I'm not quite sure. Like, do you guys moan that much about the country and politics? I feel like a lot of it is very private and kind of a big no-no to talk about. Things are moving in that direction in the United States. People are not too open about politics. Like, sometimes, yes, but I feel like after all of the crap we've been through for the past, like, basically since this country started, especially recently though, like, people are just starting to be like, okay, like, at this point, what are we even going to talk about? Like, our country's crazy. Everything that happens is crazy every day. It's just like repeating the same thing over and over. Like, no, people are starting to move away from that, at least that I know, which is I'm very thankful for as someone who is incredibly apolitical. But yeah, I can definitely see that you guys are not. Just the idea of hissing though, as someone doing that. I know it's a book, but I could see that happening in real life.
British way, and that makes us uncomfortable. In America, they don't have that problem. They talk about freedom and America and the flag, and they're very happy to do it. But we find that fairly preposterous. But maybe it's time for me to change and to be less British, and to wave the flag not in terms of empire and past greatness and silly things, but in terms of values. Values which include free speech, which include.
I love what he is saying right now. Hold on.
Respect and affection for the underdog, that includes self-mockery and an ability to consider other people from inside, if you can, I suppose.
Stephen, it's been.
I don't know if that helps.
No, don't even say that. The last part of this video was honestly perfect, because that's what honestly I hope I can bring that out of you guys sometimes when I talk about Britain, because there's so many things that you guys should be proud of and can be proud of. The one thing I was literally thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about my trip to Edale, the 30-minute train ride from Manchester. I was in the middle of the Peak District. That's just one example, bro. There is no reason that any of you guys I get it for people who may not be able to walk around and things aren't as accessible, especially using the trains and stuff. But if you are able, you got money for a train ticket, there is no reason that you shouldn't be going to some of these beautiful places like the Lake District, the Peak District. There's basically a district in every part of the country. There's gorgeous sites, and all of it is very accessible by rail. Will the train come on time? Maybe not. But that's okay. Do it for a trip. You don't have to go I'm trying to encourage you guys to really get out there more, because Britain, there's so much to do, so many beautiful sights to see. And we're just talking about one facet or aspect of Britain or British culture. Is the landscapes, scenery, the beauty, the natural beauty. But what he's talking about here, I like how, not being proud in like the imperialistic sense. The old silly stuff was what he talked about, basically when you guys ruled like the entire world. More so in like the innate good qualities that British people have. And there's a lot of those. There are a lot of those. And he listed them off. The self-mockery. You guys do that stuff really well. It's a very humble thing that I think British people are very humble in that sense. So we got deep in this video, guys. I feel like there's more to talk about, but I don't want to make myself I don't want to ramble on or say anything daft. So I've done well this so far, so let's end it at this, right? That's always what I'm thinking though when I record reaction videos. Sometimes I just don't want to say the wrong thing, but I know in the comments you guys will be telling me that that's a silly thought. I'm sure Stephen Fry has the same thoughts. I'm sure he does. They literally did at the end. He's like, I hope that was something. Bro just defined exactly what it means to be British. And he's like, oh, I hope it was good enough. I'm so sorry. Like, that's perfect example, just being so humble. So how can you not love Stephen Fry, guys? When this guy speaks, I listen. You're not going to see me locked. That's just how I truly feel about Stephen Fry and the things he has to say. Like, it brings, like, I'm just dialed in, completely tunnel vision focused on what he's saying, because his words often mean a lot to me, They really do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.